Greetings, Sigma Chi brothers, sweethearts, and guests. Welcome to the latest signature series event, Alumni Groups in Action, Career and Professional Development, brought to you on the Sigma Chi Learning Consortium. My name is Jeff Murison, and I'm a grant trustee and a volunteer on the Member Engagement Committee, and I have the honor of moderating today's program. As you may know, last year, Sigma Chi Fraternity announced the Sigma Chi Career Advantage, a suite of initiatives designed to support members in successfully navigating their professional and personal lives after college. Our goal is to provide knowledge, tools, resources, and connection opportunities for both our undergraduate and alumni members as they build their lives and careers. Our vision is to deliver an infrastructure that truly leverages the worldwide community of Sigma Chi to support the vocational and professional development of all of our members as they travel through each stage of their life. Today, in honor of National Careers Week, we are thrilled to highlight some of our alumni groups and what they are doing in this regard. From mentorship programs to networking events and workshops, these inspiring brothers are dedicated to empowering the next generation of Sigma Chi's and have a wealth of wisdom to share. Today, we are joined by brothers Greg Wolf, Tom Connors, Jim Jock, and Jim Cooper. We'll hear from each of them about the initiatives, strategies, and challenges, as well as their success stories, and conclude with a panel of Q&A. As our brothers present, we invite you to use the chat feature to ask any additional questions of our panelists. So let's begin. Up first, we have Greg Wolf and Tom Connors, who will share what they've been doing in Arizona. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. I hope everyone can hear. Greg and I will be presenting here. I'm going to begin by kind of going through a drastically reduced version of a PowerPoint presentation on our program and what we're trying to focus on. Greg is going to contribute as well on some of the subject matter there, and hopefully also at the end when we get into a Q&A session here. So, but thanks again. I'm quite honored to be included in this. And as I mentioned earlier when we were first getting on, Greg and I have been kind of aiming at becoming involved in a more national organization or national approach to the mentor program and some of its offshoots. So thanks again. Let's see, Leslie, next. So, every company, every organization that worth their salt puts together a mission statement. Really, we found it valuable to make sure that we're all on the same page, and we found it's been good at reminding us that we learn from a kind of a shared purpose. Next. So the mentor program mission statement and what the main goal of the program is to help the active chapter members transition to real life, right? To life after college or after undergraduate school. We've tried to achieve this goal. At first, we thought it would only be with just the pairing of alumni and undergrads, but we found that there was a need for other elements to it once we started to get into it. So for us, it involves the pairing process, but we quickly realized after the initial sign-up process that the chapter needed some help and training and skills that they would need going forward, so that the school, and this is what the university wasn't providing. So we started to develop workshops for the whole chapter, not just the mentees, so they could all participate. And we'll talk about the specific workshops in just a minute. One area we realized had grown substantially since our school days, and that was requirements for internships. Most of the colleges, most of the majors now at ASU require some form of internship in order to graduate. So it becomes a much needed aspect to the undergrad members. And I think our alumni are not only uniquely qualified, but uniquely interested in helping them get to to really good internships. Greg is going to talk a little bit about a couple of them that we have worked on. And Greg, do you mind if I call you in for a couple of comments here? Greg, can you hear me?
No, go ahead. Of course. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, you disappeared.
Okay, they can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, what was your question, Tom?
So I was thinking about taking just a couple of minutes to talk about a couple of the internship and relationships that we've established corporate-wise to the chapter.
Got it. So one of the things we have developed was looking, and kind of what we've decided that we would explain to these kids is we are there to give them a hand up, not a hand out. So, explaining to them, we're not making them do anything, but if we can find a door to open, we'll get them in it. So we've been developing these relationships from other brothers, some young, some older. And two of the strongest ones we've developed so far, where we actually have placed kids in their internship program and gotten them jobs, is a company called TTI, like Tom International, and or Tango Indigo for you military guys. And it is the largest power tool holding company in the world. And their movement within the company is exceptional. So their pay structure, everything is great, and their internship program is really good. The other one that we've been working on and we're gaining a lot of traction is actually Starbucks. And these are Starbucks, and explaining to the kids that we're not putting them in a position of being a barista. Yeah. We're putting them in a position of corporate development, because as any large company needs people in finance, in market research, in real estate, in engineering, every aspect, and they're hungry for the graduates, and they're really excited about joining with us. So I think that earlier, Jim, you mentioned, getting these kids moving around in the different areas of Ohio. Well, these companies are happy to discuss the whole national structure, and we're working on more, looking forward to go into companies where we know SIGs are at the helm, like Hilton and Uber and Marriott. So that's kind of the gist of the internship program right now.
Great.
Tom?
Thanks, Greg. It's really been amazing, the response we've gotten. I mean, the corporations that we have gotten to come in and will actually sponsor workshops where they'll supply the food and beverages and do their presentation and participate with the other hosts involved in the workshop. So it's been wonderful. One of the other things that we found we got more and more involved in are the group activities that the chapter holds, where there are opportunities for alumni to participate, but especially it seems the value is there with Rush. In particular, usually at the end of each Rush, there's a final night where we have the alumni in to do talks on their experiences with the fraternity, and in that will include a description of the mentor program. And I think one of the things we found over time is that, and this has been somewhat informal, but we've pulled some of a lot of the new pledges and new initiates and asked them, hey, what was your decision process in choosing Sigma Chi? And most of them said they had it whittled down to probably one or two other fraternities, but the single factor that we had a mentor program was the deciding factor for them. So it's given us some great opportunities to help the guys out. And of course, what would a good old-fashioned Sigma Chi group be better at than having parties? And we've found another reason to have one, where we do have a mentorship program wrap party at the end of the spring semester, and it's actually turned out to be quite fun and quite rewarding, and it helps us kind of keep on top with the way things should be going, what we're trying to achieve. Next. Leslie.
It's up, Tom.
Okay. I was looking at the wrong screen. Okay, so the workshops, these are most of the workshops that we've developed. First in line is networking as a lifetime skill. I don't think there's a person on this presentation that hasn't done some networking in their lives, and probably has done it many times throughout their lives and their careers. And this is really the first introduction to a formal process for networking that any of the young guys have ever had, especially valuable for juniors and seniors getting ready to head out into the workforce, where we'll have sometimes very senior alumni come in and talk about their experiences and kind of explain the process, including how to actually attend and work a networking event. And just showing up at a networking event doesn't mean you're networking. So we try to help them learn about that. We include a workshop on volunteerism and community service. Our goal with every member of the chapter, this isn't just the mentees, to participate in their community through working with volunteer service providers. And in our case, we worked out a program with St. Vincent de Paul for the homeless shelter, where the guys will go down prior to initiation and spend the whole day cleaning and prepping food and serving food and interfacing with the people who are using those shelters. So we try to give them a sense for community service. It's remarkable how few guys knew or know still how to put together a resume that works, or that would pass an AI review, or works with search engine optimization or SEO to put them hopefully into the next category of possible hires, or how important it is to manage, quote unquote, their media presence. So we found that we've been able to help them with those endeavors, and every year it's a new batch, and it's really funny to watch that process. They also didn't know that hiring organizations would check their credit scores. And so we've actually put together a workshop for credit management and investment management. It's put on by a senior VP for a bank in town here, and the guys love it. And they learn so much in the process. The last one is one I'd like to talk about just real briefly. I know our time is kind of getting up here, but we put together a workshop on mental health and addiction awareness. Our first one was January, right before the pandemic, the COVID pandemic hit. And we held a meeting where we invited the whole chapter, and every one of them showed up, and about 50 Alpha Phi, so the sorority, showed up as well. It was about an hour and a half long. We had a professional get up and talk about addiction and mental health from a professional standpoint, of a psychiatrist and psychologist standpoint. And then we had 4 individuals get up, 3 of whom were Sigma Chi's, and one was a gal who came who knew one of them. And they all got up to tell their story. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with the process that Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous uses for that, but storytelling is a central part to their sharing and their growth. And these people got up and told some very stirring, very incredible stories. So fast forward a couple of years, we were lucky enough to host the Grand Chapter meeting in Scottsdale. And so this is 2 years later after this workshop. And Greg and I were in the hallway just standing there. There were many meetings going on, so there's hardly anybody out there. We were just chatting and catching up. And one of the students, an ASU student who's a senior now, came walking up to us and said hi, and we remembered him. And he said, "How you guys doing?" We're great. So he said, "You remember the workshop you guys did on mental health awareness? You go, of course we do, and he goes, I just want to let you know. He said, I went to that meeting with my suicide note in my pocket. So we kind of were thinking, Greg and I looked at each other and goes, hey man, nothing could be sweeter than saving a person's life or helping them get help when they need it. So we know these are powerful workshops to do. They endear us and give us an opportunity to interface with the chapter. And so that's it on the workshops. Now, Leslie, next. So a few challenges. Getting the chapter advisor and consul and proconsul in face-to-face meeting and persuading them to go along and adopt the program is absolutely key to successful adoption of any mentor program. Presenting live, as Greg and I do every semester, to the entire chapter at a chapter meeting in the beginning of the semester usually really helps to get things rolling. And having a couple of old codgers like us, if you look at us with all our gray hair, it kind of lends itself to a little gravitas to the situation. So very important. Making the best mentor-mentee match is always a challenge. We found that certain majors tend to best work with like fields of interest, for example, pre-med or law. Others work just fine with just a good mentor, somebody who knows how to bring out the best in the individual, regardless of what field they're in. We've learned the hard way that communication is what makes this work on many levels, and there is the most basic level for average college student is texting, Snapchat, Twitter. Forget phone calls, forget emails. They don't work. I mean, you may get a few returned. That's going to be extraordinary if that happens. So don't get frustrated if you're not hearing back from people. Pairing follow-up is absolutely crucial. If needs be, or we think that between 30 and 60 days after the pairs are introduced to each other, a phone call just to say, how's it going? Did they respond? Anything going on? It's very important. So those I think, are some of the main challenges that we try to deal with on an ongoing basis. Leslie, next. And thank you very much. A final note on the potential for the program. Said, one of the few opportunities for alumni and actives to really meet on a regular basis and really get to know one another. That one-on-one thing works wonderfully well. So few fraternities do this. We pulled our pledges. I think I already told you that almost to a person, they said that the existence of our mentor program was their deciding factor. So we really think that it's an opportunity to recruit the best and the brightest. So with that, I'll give up the lectern.
Thank you, brothers.
Thank you, Greg and Tom. That sounds like some really cool programming and very powerful impact that you're making there in Arizona. Next up, we have Jim Josek from Cleveland. Take it away.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate your time. Tom, that was outstanding. I mean, those are areas that we really would like to focus on in the Northern Ohio area. Thank you so much for sharing that. Some really outstanding food for thought of where we want to take our alumni chapter in the future. Thank you. Thank you very much. With the Cleveland Alumni chapter, we've kind of have decided that we wanted to focus upon getting the undergrad chapters and the Cleveland Alumni group more involved with each other. So we decided a year ago that we wanted to do a career workshop. And we just had our second one last October. And it turned out to be a resounding success for us. we had to turn alumni away. We had actually over 45 attendees for undergrads from 2 chapters, Kent State, Case Western Reserve, here in the Northern Ohio area. As of last week, there were 5 job offers that came out of the career workshop. 4 of them were internships. 1 of them was a entry-level position for a graduate. What we ended up doing was really, and Leslie, if you want to put the slide up there, and I think perfect. We came to realize that the undergrads have a pretty limited attention span. So first thing that we did is we went to each undergrad chapter and asked the sophomores, juniors, and seniors if they would give us what their majors are, along with their email addresses and what their career aspirations were. And once we got that from each chapter, then we went to the alumni that kind of filled in for those areas: engineering, medical, business, architecture, finance. And we were overwhelmed with alumni from around the country that ended up flying into Cleveland for a weekend to spend time with the undergrads. We had one of the directors of Blue Origin. We had local NASA manager come in, principal for Carnegie Capital. Most of them were SIGs, some weren't, but they were Greek for other for fraternities. And overwhelmingly, it was a wonderful, wonderful program. We spent time, about an hour, going through an interview prep guide and taught these kids how to interview. There is a science to it. It's about 80% science, 20% art. Most everybody knows what the art is. Not too many people know what the science is to interviewing. So we got the kids pretty well straightened out. The overall theme for the career workshop, we let the alumni know that there was no pressure to offer any internships or entry-level positions to the undergrads. But if there was an undergrad that caught their attention, they were welcome to continue conversations after the workshop. What you see on the screen is the part of the marketing campaign that we did to the undergrads. We made certain that we were hitting their mailboxes twice a week, just to make certain that the career workshop was front and center on their minds, so that we can guarantee, or come close to guaranteeing, a solid turnout. This is one of them that went out. Leslie, you want to hit another for us, please? This is what we did for the featured alumni that were coming. This obviously is a director level. Whitney's a director for Steris, who ended up extending a couple of internships to some of the undergrads that attended the workshop. What we found is these kids were just starved for meeting alumni that were successful in their fields. And the questions that they were asking were pretty deep, pretty well thought out. It was a great networking event, not only for undergrads, but for alumni as well. We found that since we've been doing this, a lot of the alumni and undergrads keep in touch with each other. The alumni like to follow a kid's career. They'll answer questions, they'll mentor him. And some of the alumni are looking at kids getting a little more experience under their belt before extending an offer to come to work for them. Leslie, go ahead and pop another picture if you'd like. Just an idea of what we ended up seeing. You can go ahead and pop another there as well. You can go through the pictures. This is just giving you an idea of what we did as an award and a thank you for the alums that attended. And we had some coming from California, some that came in from New York. We had several that drove 2 or 3 hours to get there on a Saturday morning. So we wanted to show our appreciation to the alumni who ended up coming and joining us. So we had a challenge coin made up, gave that to every alum that attended as a thank you. And they walked away happy and very energized with the whole workshop and the whole process. One of the things that we found is the undergrads go back to their chapters and they talk to those that didn't attend and tell them what, the value that they received from it. So we're noticing that every workshop that we do gets larger and larger. These kids are, if this is an indication of what the future holds for the country, we're in good shape. These are really sharp kids. What we, have realized now is we'd like to roll this out to a couple more undergrad chapters in the Northern Ohio area and keep the whole process going. That pretty much sums it up in a nutshell. This is the Kent State chapter that had shown up. Just a group shot of probably about maybe half that were there. That pretty much sums it up, Jeff.
Thank you, Jim. Great stuff. Appreciate you taking the time this evening to be part of the program. Reminder to our audience to use the chat comment feature to ask any questions you have for any of our panelists. And finally, we'll hear from Jim Cooper from New York City. Take it away, Jim, except you might need to unmute first.
Here I am. Hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. What I'm going to talk about is a little bit different. I have, kind of two affiliations with Sigma Chi. As Jeff mentioned, I'm a member of the New York City metropolitan area alumni chapter, and I'm also affiliated with my home chapter, Alpha Chi chapter at Penn State University, where I'm on the House Corporation board. And the first thing I'm going to talk about, well, it really isn't specifically geared in itself toward professional and personal development, but you'll see when I'm at the conclusion of it that it has the residual benefit of providing that for the people that participate in it. And this is a Penn State event. Back in the 1990s, I think the year was 1990, a group of recent grads from the 1980s decided they wanted to get back together on the campus and play some golf together. They were golfers. So they started up a golf weekend that had about 12 people participating in it. And, it's been going on now. This will be the 34th year of that golfing weekend. And go ahead, Leslie, if you might change to the next slide. The weekend is comprised of a Friday golfing event, a Saturday golfing event, a Saturday, what we call Saturday evening steak bake, back at the fraternity house itself. The time of year that we do this is June, so school is out and we have the house and the grounds to ourselves. And then on Sunday, you have a House Corporation board meeting as well. But the event itself has now grown to include more than 100 people each year. And we've got people coming back from the graduation years of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 3 decades from this current millennium. So we span about 60 plus years in terms of the people that are participating. And, if you go to the next slide, Leslie, it talks about, what are the objectives of this weekend that happens every year? Well, it's to ensure that alumni have a good feeling, a good time, and rekindle relationships, a dinner at the house to revive old times, an annual House Corporation meeting, which gets fairly well attended on the Sunday, so we can talk to alums about, what the needs are of the current chapter. And that noted that the objective is friend raising, not fundraising. But a fifth thing that really isn't on this list in the presentation that is a residual benefit of having run this event every year is what I would call what takes place in the way of informal networking and mentoring. Because this event is such a regular thing, everybody knows it's going to happen every year. Because it's so well attended with 100+ people, alumni each year, because we span such a wide range of ages and graduation dates, that what's happened in the course of it is a lot of informal mentoring relationships have developed. I know that people from the engineering field, older guys have mentored younger guys, met them and mentored them. From the construction management field, from the finance field. Personally, myself, I was a human resource executive, and I've been mentoring someone 25 years, my junior year now, for the last 3 or 4 years, who's also in the human resource management field. Another example of the kind of thing that can take place through an event like this is last year, one of the brothers who came back is a physician. He was a year older than me back in my active days. And he now is working on developing a medical device that pertains to his medical specialty. I spent 11 years as head of human resources for a mid-sized medical device company. So I was able to connect him with people back in that company who could assist him with figuring out how he's going to get funding for developing the product, as well as what it's going to take for him to get through the FDA approval process when the time comes that he has a product to launch. So again, where this event is not specifically geared toward personal and professional development, it definitely has resulted in some of that taking place informally. Next thing I'd like to move on to is a second event. Leslie, I'm done with that one. And hold back on putting the visual up for the career fair or the college fair. If you could go to take that slide off and just put me on there. The second thing I'd like to talk about is something that a member of the New York City Alumni chapter did in terms of attending a recent college fair. And first and foremost, I want to recognize Phil Oldham. He's a member of our chapter, New York City Alumni chapter. He's a Sci from Syracuse University, and he was the former president of our alumni chapter. Participation in this college fair was his innovative idea, and he both led the idea itself and the execution of it, with the support of a couple of other alumni brothers. Now, Phil resides in Westchester County, New York. It's a somewhat affluent northern suburb of New York City. And late last autumn, he became aware of a college fair that was going to be held in the city of White Plains, which is the county seat of Westchester County. And it was a fair that was going to include 75 colleges and universities, as well as be attended by hundreds of students and their parents as well. So Phil comes up with the novel idea of our fraternity participating. He persuades the college fair managers using materials that we'll display in just a minute or so. And voila, there we are with a table, Sigma Chi, among 75 colleges and universities participating in the same event. And needless to say, there was no other fraternity or a sorority present at this event. It's something that just really hasn't happened very often. I'm not sure if this might have even been a first. So since these events are most often attended by motivated students and their parents, what an opportunity to show our stuff. And let's face it, high school students, their perception of what a fraternity is mostly still in the category of socializing and beer drinking. And their parents probably don't have much of a different perception as well. So at the event, Phil put together 2 pages that were displayed, as well as takeaway items, to talk about what Sigma Chi can offer when their son gets to campus. So Leslie, would you put up the first page of that? So as you can see on this first page, we highlight that Sigma Chi is a key to achieving a best college experience, setting up postgraduate success. That we offer things that relate to a 4-year balanced social and academic college experience, connecting with upperclassmen, face-to-face kinds of meetings that take place within the fraternity itself, chapter leadership positions, academic standards, comprehensive leadership programs as well. That we also provide lifelong postgraduate professional and personal connections with alumni chapters, with networking with nearly 300,000 graduates, as well as SIG Talks, which I'm going to speak about in just a few minutes. Also, that Sigma Chi, in terms of independent sources, has been rated the best fraternity in every identifiable category for fraternities. And then lastly, that we are the largest and most innovative fraternity in terms of the specific things that we do to support personal and professional development. And then on this page, you can see listings of all the things that we provide opportunities for in terms of people who become members. The Leadership Institute and the programs through there, the Kroc Transformational Leadership Workshops, Horizons, Risk Management Foundation programs. Nod to the guys in Arizona, the Big Brother Alumni Mentoring Program, scholarships and grants, reaching out in terms of mental health support, and opportunities to participate in philanthropy. And of course, once you're a graduate, affinity groups that can keep you active in the things that interest you with Sigma Chi brothers. And then we mentioned even the Sweetheart Program as ambassadors for the fraternity. So, imagine this, their son goes off to college, having been to this career fair. The parents have seen this as well. They have what we hope would be a very positive impression of Sigma Chi from this experience. And then when he calls home and says, hey, I've got a bid from Sigma Chi, we expect that there would be a great deal of parental support for that. And this gives us a leg up in terms of recruiting the best and the brightest. So we plan to do more of these college fair presents. It takes some persuasion to get your foot in the door with the people that run these college fairs. But with this tool and being able to talk about all these different things that the fraternity offers, we had success in getting into the one in White Plains, New York, and we expect it's going to work for us with other college fairs in the future. And Leslie, I would say if anybody is interested in having those 2 slides that you just showed, be happy to have you distribute those to them. We want to share them. The third and final thing I'll talk about tonight are SIG Talks. And SIG Talks were initiated in 2020 by James Hefner, who was then the president of the New York City Alumni chapter. And given that this was at the beginning of the pandemic, James was looking for opportunities to, keep the chapter together when we really could only meet virtually. So he came up with the idea of SIG Talks. And SIG Talks are kind of our own version of TED Talks, featuring Sigma Chi alumni speakers who have valuable information and insights to share on topics of interest to a broad-based audience. And they are done, of course, virtually. Now, not unlike the Penn State Golf Weekend, it started small, but with locally oriented speakers and a Zoom audience of about 20 people for each SIG Talk. So fast forward to where we are now 4 years later with a much expanded program. We, the alumni, New York City Alumni chapter, have partnered with the Washington, D.C. chapter, and that has enhanced our ongoing challenge of getting commitments from really great speakers to participate. For the past 3 years, we've employed an interview format with our speakers, co-moderated by a New York City representative, usually myself, and a D.C. representative. And we also allow time for Q&A, just like we're doing here tonight at the end of the speaker session. We put a great deal of work into developing substantive interview questions, and we've been really pleased about the variety of our topics and the quality of our broadcasts and speakers. We're doing 8 or 9 per year, one a month. We take the summer off. And we've been promoting this SIG Talks on relevant social media. Recently, to give you a flavor of who we've had on SIG Talks, a couple of months ago, we had Ted Decker, who is chairman of the board, CEO, and president of the Home Depot Corporation. We had Bob Cathcart, who is an executive in the medical device industry, who talked about how medical technology is affecting our lives. We had John Jarvis, who's a former director of the National Park Service, and Will Ashroth, who is currently the president of the National Parks Foundation. We had John Kosikian, who was a former commissioner of the IRS, and Keith Kroc, who is well known for his being a benefactor and enabling the fraternity to have the Kroc transformational leadership programs. Keith was also 10 years CEO at DocuSign Corporation and an undersecretary in the State Department with an expertise on Taiwan in one of the presidential administrations. And we've had Rob Wilson, our current Grand Consul, and Tim Sanderson, our former Grand Consul, just as examples of the level of speaker that we've been able to acquire and the quality of the programs. About a year ago, we started a great collaboration with the Sigma Chi Learning Consortium, thanks to Leslie Nichols, and our broadcasts are recorded and made available on their website. That has expanded our viewership to be between 200 and 500 people for each SIG Talk. Actually, more of our participation comes afterwards with the recordings than it does on the actual night of the SIG Talk, but we're really pleased about having that range of 200 to 500 people participating in the program. For upcoming SIG Talks, we're pursuing a brother who just received an Academy Award, yes, an Oscar, earlier this week. And we're also pursuing someone who was recently appointed Vice President of Player Personnel for an NBA franchise. So we're trying to keep the level of speaker, at as such that people will take an interest in what's being presented. And all of these speakers, of course, are Sigma Chi alums. So here's our bottom line. We view SIG Talks as a vehicle for imparting information, insights, enlightenment, and continuous education on a variety of topics, enhancing the knowledge, the personal and professional development of Sigma Chi actives and alumni who tune in to the live broadcasts or the recordings on the Sigma Chi Learning Consortium. So we invite you to participate in our future SIG Talks. And that's what I have to say tonight.
Wow, Jim, you're really busy. Thank you for all the time and commitment you put into Sigma Chi. We really appreciate all your volunteer effort.
And thank you, Jeff. Jeff's part of our committee for SIG Talks, and he's made some great contributions.
It's been a fun program. All right, I think it's time that we shift, then open it up to some questions for our panelists. Welcome back, everyone. So our first question is from the Learning Consortium. How did you fund all these initiatives? This is a lot of stuff you're producing. How do you pay for it? Which one of you has to get out your checkbook? Nice.
Yeah, I would say that we actually have worked with the Housing Corp a little bit on some of the stuff, and generous alumni have helped out. But most of the stuff we're doing is, incidental costs for mileage and gas on the car, driving to the meetings, and our time. There's not a lot of out-of-pocket costs in our efforts to develop the technical side of things. The online sign up and distribution of the mentor guide that we put together and things like that. We've been very fortunate to have a third member of our little mentor program triumvirate, JJ Nace, who runs the technical side and can do all that stuff so far without costing a lot of money. But we're probably getting to a point where developing the algorithm for selecting mentors and mentees, or pairing them, I should say, and reviewing some of the information and tracking that kind of stuff. It's probably going to start to get into at least some expense, but we're not sure what that is yet. Can't hear you.
Can you, as a caveat, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah. As a caveat to what Tom just said, we had a unique situation arise where the Epsilon Upsilon chapter at Arizona State lost its charter. And as we can see in our group here, we didn't have risk managers in our houses. We didn't have social media. The only thing we had were our other brothers, and you just grabbed them and told them you are sworn to secrecy. Well, that's not what happened. So they lost their charter. The Housing Corp also got into a lawsuit with ASU because they were trying to take our house through eminent domain. So the house of cards folded in and the funds got distributed elsewhere, because that would have been our main source of funding. So just to explain a little bit about that, but Tom and I didn't want to be, we didn't want to be sidelined. So we just kept it up and we looked at, what the costs were going to be. And as long as Elon Musk will stop talking, I might not lose all my money in Tesla stock, and we can use that down the road. So we'll see. But it's been hard to get that funding.
Yeah. Can't hear you.
My bad. I said, Greg, be careful. You're going to get a call from the foundation. Well, thank you all for
another reason.
Right. Thank you for making the program, continue and keeping it alive. It sounds like it's pretty amazing.
One other thing that I might add to that is that the first few years, and we've been doing this since the end of 2016, the first few years have been pretty much focused on the Epsilon Upsilon chapter, but not only because we have more time on our hands, but our intent has always been to develop a province-wide and ultimately a national program. So this discussion today is wonderful in that regard, but we have actually taken steps to develop the province-wide program by introducing the concepts to the Beta Phi chapter down in Tucson, as we would say at Arizona State, Tucson, Arizona, and otherwise known as University of Arizona, and up at NAU, the Zeta Omicron chapter. And the chapter that we are still chiseling away at, and we could use some help, is the Embry-Riddle chapter in Prescott, Arizona. So we have gone and spoken and setting pairings up with mentors and mentees, both in Tucson and Flagstaff, where NA, Northern Arizona University is. And we have a couple of highly qualified guys with wings who would love to get involved with the Embry-Riddle chapter.
Tom, do you want me to put the word out to the Daytona chapter? Anybody that's West Coast to help out? I know these guys are pretty dedicated.
They are, and our chapter at Embry-Riddle apparently is, but they're, it's just a different environment than most universities there, and they're so focused on flight training and but they have a chapter and they've been successful at keeping it going, and so we're going to chip away, but if somebody knows somebody, that's networking, right? And we'd love to hear from them.
As far as any expenses are concerned, with
I'll put the word out and get you in touch with a couple people.
Great.
As far as any expenses are concerned with SIG Talks, None of our speakers have ever asked us for an honorarium, and they've been very gracious about giving us their time and their efforts for the talks. We did convert from using Zoom to a platform called StreamYard, which this broadcast is using right now. StreamYard is a much more flexible platform and much more amenable for running a podcast than Zoom. And the funding for StreamYard comes from the treasuries of the combined New York City area alumni chapter and the DC chapter. We subscribe to it annually so that we can put on the events.
That's great.
Okay, we have a couple of other questions.
For the career workshop that we had, I'll make this real quick, Jeff. For the career workshop, it was a cost of a little under $500. And we had a couple of alums from the Cleveland chapter that were able to get national to reimburse us for almost all of that expense. So doesn't cost a lot to do it. It's not really difficult to set up, but the dividends compared to the effort and cost involved is, oh my God, tenfold. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
Terrific. So our next question is, how did you initiate the relationship or begin the process with your local undergraduate chapters? Tell us about, how did you bring them to the table?
That was easy. We found out who the resident advisor was and started with him, got the names of the other guys, and went over there with a club in our hands.
I thought you were going to say you fed them, because that pretty much that'll do it every time.
Yeah. Now the resident advisor, can use all the help they could get. So having more seasoned alumni come to a meeting once or twice a semester to tell the chapter that yes, the resident advisor does know what they're talking about is very helpful.
What?
So and in the meantime, then now you have somebody who's going to all their meetings and can speak to, saying, hey, where are you guys on the mentor thing? Have you finished your applications? Have you done that? So it doesn't seem like we're bugging the crap out of the kids to do something, and with the emphasis on we're being everything's voluntary anyway. But so starting with the resident advisor, and the resident advisor sets up a meeting with the consul, proconsul. So you meet with those guys either on the phone or in Zoom or whatever, and once you've convinced those three, implementation generally happens pretty easily after that.
Yeah, definitely. What we found is these kids are really starved for some sort of interaction with older people. The interactions that they've had have been with either a father, an uncle, or a professor, and it's a very different relationship than an older brother. When they start to realize that we're as demented as they are, but we're a little gray around the tables, they just open up. I mean, these kids are really looking for someone that they can relate to and talk with. And Sigma Chi seems to be that common bond that we have with each other. In starting our interactions with the different chapters, don't be surprised if you just get one or two that come around and it's kind of an obligatory interaction. But when they start to realize that, hey, these older guys are really pretty cool, word spreads back at the chapters pretty quickly. And then the floodgates open. We have undergrads that come to our monthly alumni meeting. They know that they'll get a free meal out of it, but there's a lot of laughter and a lot of interaction that goes on between us. We're starting to see a little bit of a mentorship program. And Tom, I'm so grateful for what you brought up, because that's something that we can build upon here in Cleveland. But we go to some of the chapter meetings now, but the interaction that we have with these kids is really strong, and it'll pay dividends in the future once they matriculate out of their university or their chapters, become alumni, they'll understand that there's a process now for them to start giving back. So instead of just saying, yeah, I was a Sigma Chi in my undergrad days, we're now giving them a reason to say that I'm a Sigma Chi for life.
Yes, absolutely.
Real quick, one of the things we've done when we go to the chapters, we always bring a slide of our composite, and we put it up. And Tom and I are, and Tom, as you guys know, I called Tom sir. He never called me sir. So he was a semester ahead of me, and he was very mean during Hell Week. So don't let his
get out.
disposition. But anyhow, we would look at these kids because they would be looking at the composite, and I would say, now, do you wonder why I keep telling you that we were just like you? We're just older now. And we would show them the picture, and they're like, who is that? And I'm like, that is us, just with a lot more hair and a lot longer. And it really brings them into the fold quicker to understand, because we, as I mentioned earlier, we tell them it's not mandatory, but we're not there to pressure them. We're not their father. And at this point, we're not their grandfather. We are their brother. And it makes an impact on them.
Well, that's a fabulous way to wrap up our program today. On that note, brothers, I want to thank you for your participation tonight and this webinar. You provided invaluable insight and inspiration for us all. Shared your experiences and challenges, successes, and really the value of integrity and leadership and resilience that is instilled by Sigma Chi. This, is a testament to the enduring brotherhood and the power of our network within the fraternity. And so I want to take, this time to just thank you for being part of our program tonight. That concludes our alumni groups in action, career and professional development program. We hope you've been inspired by the stories you've heard today and the insights you've gained. Be on the lookout for more programs like this within the Sigma Chi Career Advantage team as we prepare to roll out some new career development resources this semester. If you've enjoyed this panel, please share the Signature Speakers series with your friends and fellow Sigma Chi brothers, as well as anyone who values stories of leadership, ambition, and enduring power, the power of brotherhood. Remember, the bonds that are formed throughout Sigma Chi are not just for 4 years, but for a lifetime, and they continue to shape our lives as we move forward. We encourage you to visit the Sigma Chi Learning Consortium, at any time to watch all of our previously recorded content and register for upcoming live events. Again, thank you to all of our panelists for a great evening and a great program, and for all our viewers for joining us. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you all.